This episode is brought to you by Dashlane. Keep your personal data safe from prying eyes with a free account from Dashlane. On April 11, 2019, London Metropolitan Police entered the Ecuadorian embassy and arrested Julian Assange, who'd been holed up in the building for almost 7 years. The US and British governments had been keen to get their hands on Assange for nearly a decade, and after a recent falling out between Assange and the Ecuadorian president, they finally got their chance. A 7-page indictment indicates that Assange is guilty of receiving secret government information and attempting to aid Chelsea Manning in hacking a secure government computer system. The interesting thing about this story is that while Julian Assange may be an arrogant, unlikable creep, his arrest, indictment, and pending extradition pose a significant enough threat to press freedom that both his fans and his detractors should stand together in his defense, at least in part. To better understand the gravity of the situation, let's rewind a bit. In 2006, Assange founded WikiLeaks, an international publishing organization intended to help reveal war crimes, human rights abuses, and corruption. The group came into the international spotlight in 2010, when it published a series of leaks provided by Chelsea Manning, then a US Army intelligence analyst. These leaks included hundreds of thousands of pages of documents, as well as a video of American troops killing a number of civilians from 2 helicopters in Iraq. These leaks prompted the US government to launch a criminal investigation into WikiLeaks and ask allied nations for assistance. Since that time, Assange has been embroiled in a number of other alleged crimes and questionable activities, including sexual assault charges in Sweden that were later dropped, and the furtherance of conspiracy theories during the 2016 US presidential election. While these later events went a long way towards making Assange seem thoroughly repugnant, the important part of this particular story is the leaks in association with Chelsea Manning. This is the indictment regarding Assange and his cooperation with Manning in the 2010 leaks. Let's look at what exactly it alleges. First, Assange, who did not possess a security clearance or need to know, was not authorized to receive classified information on the United States. This is referring to the documents Manning gave Assange to publish on WikiLeaks. It goes on to say, Assange agreed to assist Manning in cracking a password stored on the United States Department of Defense computers connected to the Secret Internet Protocol Network, a United States government network used for classified documents and communications. The password in question would allow Manning to access the files she already had access to, but under a different username to make her activity harder to track. Next, Assange knew that Manning was providing WikiLeaks with classified records containing national defense information of the United States. Assange was knowingly receiving such classified records from Manning for the purpose of publicly disclosing them on the WikiLeaks website. The indictment claims Assange and Manning's actions constitute a criminal conspiracy, and it goes on to elaborate on the ways and means by which this conspiracy was carried out. As we go over these ways and means, consider how an investigative journalist normally operates and see if you can spot anything unusual. 1. Assange and Manning used the Jabber online chat service to collaborate. 2. Assange and Manning took measures to conceal Manning as the source of the disclosure of the classified records to WikiLeaks. 3. Assange encouraged Manning to provide information and records from departments and agencies of the United States. Finally, Assange and Manning used a special folder on a cloud Dropbox of WikiLeaks to transmit classified records containing information related to the national defense of the United States. Of those ways and means of furthering this conspiracy, did any of them seem unusual? They shouldn't, because those are all methods that journalists around the world use every day. They use encrypted channels to discuss sensitive information. They protect the identity of their sources, especially those in government or military positions where they could face significant consequences. They try to get as much information as they can from their sources. They use encrypted or anonymous file storage and transfer methods. These are all completely valid things for a journalist to do, and it's how we've gotten much of the important information about our own government and other powerful groups. The fact that the US government is hell-bent on punishing Assange for acting as any journalist would is alarming. Their indictment, as of right now, hinges on the fact that Assange helped to crack a password. That's a valid charge. Cracking government passwords isn't a good look for reputable journalists. The problem is, the evidence that Assange was the one who helped Manning to do it is less than concrete. But it's all the government has to bring Assange to the States and try to crucify him for publishing truthful, damaging information about the US government. Extradition and punishment of foreigners based on weak accusations could set a very dangerous precedent for journalists around the world. What happens when Saudi Arabia decides they don't like what an American journalist has published? Or North Korea? Or Russia? Politicians across the spectrum and around the world have been chiming in. Tulsi Gabbard tweeted, "The arrest of Julian Assange is meant to send a message to all Americans and journalists. Be quiet, behave, toe the line, or you will pay the price." Former Alaska Senator and 2020 presidential candidate Mike Gravel said, "Justice ought to be blind for a reason. Whatever you think of Julian Assange or his politics, what he's being charged with is absurd. When we allow Assange to be imprisoned today, we're sowing the seeds of our own imprisonment in the future. We must stand for justice for all. What separates Julian Assange from investigative reporters like Woodward and Bernstein? Both sets of information were damaging to the United States. What about Mike Gravel, a man running for president to get on the debate stage, the senator who read the Pentagon Papers into the public record so the general public could see them? The 4,100 pages of documents Gravel read into the congressional record could be considered harmful to national security, just as Assange's leaks are today. But both men believe that the public has a right to know the atrocities that their government commits without their knowledge or consent. On the night of June 29, 1971, Mike Gravel declared, "It is my constitutional obligation to protect the security of the people by fostering the free flow of information absolutely essential to their democratic decision-making." That's what it boils down to. Either the public has the right to know what's going on and to hold their government accountable, or they do not. Criminalizing publishing information from whistleblowers gives the government much more control over the free flow of information, and that is a real threat to press freedom and American liberty. How we decide to handle the case of Julian Assange, and others like him, will set a precedent one way or the other. Let's hope it's a good one. The history of whistleblowers is all about data security, and while the people may have a right to know what their government is up to, the same can't be said for your own personal data. The best way I know to protect your passwords, documents, and browsing activity is with Dashlane. Dashlane is a super secure, locally encrypted password manager for all your most important data. It's a safe place to store important documents and receipts, a VPN to keep your browsing secure from prying eyes, a dark web monitoring watchdog, and of course, a reliable password manager that makes it easy to save all your different passwords, autofill login fields, and automatically change passwords if they're ever compromised. Go to dashlane.com/secondthought to try out these awesome features with a free trial of Dashlane Premium. And if you really want to get serious about online security, be one of the first 200 people to use the coupon code SECONDTHOUGHT to get 10% off your subscription.